About that same time, right after this band had broken up, I a friend of mine took me out to the bank again, to this nightclub, to see a band called Zero Defects, who were, he called them, they were hardcore punk. You know, I knew about punk, but I didn't know about this hardcore punk, and so he was going to take me out to see hardcore punk. And I went and saw this band, Zero Defects, and it was the most, I saw them, and there was like 5 bands on the bill, and most of the bands played recognizable songs. They were a bit faster, and I liked them, they were cool. But when Zero Defects came on, what they played was just like absolute noise. You couldn't distinguish one song from another, and they all seemed to be over in like 10 seconds, and it was like, wah! You know, finish, and then the next one, 1, 2, 3, 4, wah! Finish. And I just was like astounded by this. I was amazed. I'm sitting there going, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. You know, it's like, because it was so completely over the top, and I'd never seen anything like this before. And I found out a little bit later, maybe a couple months after this, I'm not sure, that Zero Defects' bass player had quit, and they were looking for a new bass player. And they put an ad in the paper, in the local music paper called The Scene. So I answered the ad because I was like, I got to join this band. I played guitar before, but you can play bass if you can play guitar. So I went down and I visited this house, and it was like the crummiest house I'd ever seen in my life. It was in this bad part of town. It was falling down, and all these punk rockers shared this house. You know, the rent was probably really cheap to begin with, and then they were all living together. You know, so probably each person paid like $50 a month or less or something to rent this place. And it was the most horrible place I'd ever seen. You know, there's like records all over the floor and cigarette butts, and there was 2 people. I remember when I walked into the house, there's 2 people making out on the couch, and they're both had shaved heads. And I'm like, wow, you know, it took me a while to figure out one of them was a girl, you know. So I'd never seen anything like that, and they led me down to the basement and gave me the bass that belonged to their previous bass player, and it was plugged into this amp, and you plugged this in, and everything sounded like buffalo farts. It was terrible. You know, the amp was like shredded, and I started warming up. I started just kind of playing a scale or something to warm up, and the singer kind of looks at me and goes, "Oh, a musician."